Mic check. Peas and carrots, peas and carrots. Paramecium. Hi, I'm Ashley Daigle, and this is Advice from the Cheerbrarian. Never heard that word before? That's because I smushed two words together, because I felt like it. This week, we're going to do what we always do. Mix a dollop of advice to improve your life, born from a few of my successes and a boatload of my mistakes, with the book recommendation of the week, unearthed by my voracious love of reading, from self-help to historical fiction and everything in between. Today, we will be talking about getting dumped from a job by a person, rejection of all flavors, and what to do about it. You also get 2 rejection book recommendations for the price of 1, which, is free. 1 book will be to soothe you, and 1 book will be when you are ready to forge ahead. There'll also be some great brags and an exciting announcement about the pod. If you like what you hear, and I really hope you do, pretty please tell other people about this podcast, because sharing is caring. And now, let's get into it. Today, we are talking about the sweet pain of rejection. You can get rejected by a person, right? By a group of people. That's even worse. You could get rejected by an opportunity that maybe didn't quite materialize, but you were so close and it feels just like you had it. You know what I mean? You could also be laid off from a job, and that is the context I'm talking about today. So in July of 2023, I got laid off for the first and hopefully the last time ever. Do not recommend to Yelp stars. If you are interested in the juicy details of my layoff, you can just do a Google search for corporate tech layoffs. It is not a new story to tell. It's not even that interesting. But what is interesting and what I'm going to focus on is how I felt in those moments and what my takeaways were from having to deal with that situation. My first lesson from being rejected is that you need to feel the feels and lean on your people. So, in the immediate aftermath, right after it happened, I called my husband. I was shook. He was at work at the time. So, he sounded the alarm, immediately texted my best friend and was like, "She needs you. Call her now." So, he did. And that was great. So, I already had people in my corner. Said husband came home as soon as he could and offered to make me a strong vodka martini at, noon. And I said, yes, please. We're going to do that right now. I wasn't quite sure what to do with myself because, this was not my plan for the day, but it was a gorgeous day. So I decided to get my phone and go get in the hammock because I love my hammock. And so I started, like I do, texting everybody to tell them, hey, this happened. And it was great because everyone, of course, was responding saying, oh no, and you're great, and you're going to be awesome, and I'm here for you. And so it's really nice to get that kind of support, but you got to ask for it, right? So that is what I started doing just about immediately. So by like 2 p.m., I was in a hammock. I was a little drunk. I had talked to a lot of my friends. And, all in all, it was turning into a pretty nice afternoon aside from, the whole being laid off part. And that felt weird because I was like, well, today was nice. That doesn't feel right. Which brings me to lesson number 2. The second lesson is that there are no rules when you are rejected. There's not a right way to do it. You might even be very surprised by how you handle it. You might be somebody who typically cries at commercials, like me, and you find yourself not crying at all. That was not my experience. I cried, but that was me. You might not be somebody who cries, and you might find yourself sobbing. You might feel anger or grief or pettiness or absolutely nothing at all. And all of that is fine and to be expected. Because if you remember, we talked in previous episodes about brains and how your brain's brain. And there are just things and processes that you have taught your brain over time or that are innate in your personality that will happen when negative things happen to you. So just let your brain and don't worry about what's going on. My third and final lesson is that there is no timeline for getting over rejection. So don't beat yourself up about it. Don't think, oh, I shouldn't be mad or I shouldn't be sad anymore. It's been, a week, a month, 2 months, 5 months. There is no way to know how long it's going to take you to heal, be it from something with your professional life or be it a relationship that ends. You just kind of have to go through it. I wish there was something I could do for you to make it easier, but there isn't. You just have to go through the process and feel it, and you will eventually, I will tell you, promise from me to you, you will come out on the other side. of this rejection. It will get better. When you are unfortunately dumped, and let's be real, it's a universal experience. Something is not going to go your way. You're going to get rejected. There are going to be two stages of this rejection process, and you will behave according to what stage you are in. And I'm going to help you with that right now. So, the stages, as identified by me, first one is the stage of seeking comfort. So, think ice cream, pajamas, ordering in food, binge watching something, saying sassy things about those that rejected you to your friends so they can be like, and you can be like, I know, right? And they can be like, yeah, that is very important. So if you're in that seek comfort stage, do those things. Don't worry about the rest. Do what you need to do for yourself. And then the second stage, of course, is forging ahead. So what that feels like is you're ready to make a plan, you're thinking about what's next, you're moving on. Now, there could be some false starts, right? You might be in the comfort stage and be like, I'm ready to move on. And then as you start looking into it or think about having to like rewrite your resume, you're like, I'm going to get back into my pajamas because resumes are terrible. And that's fine. It's okay if you vacillate. But really, these two chunks are what is going to be necessary for getting you out of that rejection. And the last thing I will say before moving on from this segment is that my layoff actually inspired the idea to start this podcast. You know, when it happened, I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do with myself? How long am I going to be unemployed? What is that going to look like? And so I, had this idea, let it percolate for a while before I got it off the ground. But, you know, it got me here with this microphone. And so I'm not gonna necessarily lean too hard into that, when a door what is it? The door closes, the window opens. Something about doors and windows, you know the phrase. Because sometimes it's okay to just feel sad and annoyed. You don't have to immediately start looking for the silver lining of every bad thing that happens, but you never know where the rejection might lead, right? It could lead to something good because, it's been 2 months of me doing this, and this can be a lonely gig I, made up for myself, talking to myself into a microphone, or really, I guess, talking to you. Hello there. But I'm enjoying the journey. So that's a little bit of like lemons and some lemonade and whatnot. And now, as I said at the top of the show, I've got two recommendations coming up. So we have one book that will be for when you're in that seeking comfort stage, and one book for when you are ready to forge ahead. And plus, I have an announcement to make. Gasp. About my first ever guest coming on. Gasp, gasp. Okay. It is unrequired reading time. And as I just mentioned, we've got two books for the different stages of rejection. So when you are seeking, there it is, seeking. Yep, that's fine. I'm going to leave that in. When you are seeking comfort, I recommend that you read the book The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. Schaefer? One of those two, probably. So, a friend of mine, shout out to Roxy, hey, good job, recommended this book because I literally was like, hi, I got laid off. Somebody recommend a book for me to read. And she recommended this one specifically because she said it is for anyone who loves books and needs a warm hug. She nailed it with this recommendation because this book is just sweet enough, but also dark enough to appeal to a troubled mind of someone who is maybe, I don't know, going through rejection. So, any book lover would be delighted to dive into this fictional world. In this book, Jack Masterson is like this Willy Wonka ish children's author. He is reclusive, he is wildly successful, and he hasn't published anything in years. Now, he announces that he's hosting a contest, and he has invited to his home 4 adults who, when they were children, ran away from their houses to the magical island that he lives on. It's not really magical, it's like metaphorically magical. It's a cool island. It's the Wonka thing going on. So what he's doing is that if anyone can beat, he's got these riddles, he's got these trials he's going to make them do, and if anyone can win, they will receive the single existing copy of his new book, which is going to be like very valuable. If no one wins, the publishers will receive it and everyone will go home empty-handed. So firstly, it's just a dream come true. Like I would like to go to a Willy Wonka-esque, author's house and get to do trials and win a book. Like, that sounds great. The thing that this book really has going for it is the relationships. It's really centered on that. So you've got the author, and there's a handsome young book illustrator who lives in his home. And then there's a charming young school teacher who wants the money and the book so she can adopt this child she's been helping. And, you heard me say young illustrator, handsome, and, young school teacher. Will romantic sparks fly? Have you seen a Hallmark movie? The answer is probably. But look, we're here for comfort. We're here for soothing. We don't want surprises. So having a book that may seem a little predictable, that was what I wanted. I was not mad about it. I don't think I'm spoiling anything to talk to you about it like this because it's pretty obvious, but it was delightful. So formulaic predictability is what soothing requires, right? Yes, it is right. And now onward and upward to stage 2, which is the forging ahead. Once you are ready to figure out what is next and put that rejection in the rearview mirror, or I guess see it in the rearview mirror, it's behind you, is what I'm saying. Rejection is behind you. We're looking ahead. Rejection shakes your confidence. And so it is important to build yourself back up. For me, that means reminding myself what I'm good at, what I like to do, and what I bring to the table. And the best way for me to remember all those things is to go to the Strengths Finder 2.0 assessment. And that is the book we're talking about. Strengths Finder, which is fun to say. One more time. Strengths Finder. You say it. Now you say it. Did you say it? I'll know if you didn't say it. Okay, thank you. So this is going to help you connect with what's important to you and give you direction. I love assessments, okay? I love them. I love a personality test. I love to take a test and it tell me what kind of dog I am or what weather's most suited to me, whatever. I find it fascinating. This is one of my favorites, and I think it's the most helpful. If you aren't familiar, what you need to know is that the principle behind StrengthsFinder is that there are things that you are naturally good at. Yes, you have skills, you have stuff that you do well, better than other people even, things that come easy to you. And of course, you have weaknesses. Now, it is a common idea I'm going to know my weaknesses so I can work on them and be less weak at the things I'm not good at. However, the principle of StrengthsFinder is that if you work to improve things that you were already naturally good at, if you key in on those things, you have a greater capacity for success because you're already starting ahead, right? So you want to know your weaknesses so that you can identify them and not be held back, but focusing on what you're good at is going to just get you further ahead in life. And once you know those strengths, then you can find hobbies and jobs and things that you can do to enjoy because it's already tied into what you like and what you're good at. So, the nuts and bolts of it, or excuse me, the stack of pancakes of StrengthsFinder is that there are 34 different themes. And so when you take the assessment, it will tell you where you land with all 34 of them. And it'll really hone in on here's your top 5, here's your top 10. These are the ones you pay attention to. So as an example, my strengths in this are positivity, communication, woo, which I love. Woo stands for winning others over, input, and developer. And guess what, y'all? I use all of those things. All those skills are necessary and really tapped into to make this podcast. And that is why making this podcast feels great because it is in alignment with my top strengths. How exciting for me, and also hopefully for you. I guess you could be excited for me. I love that I have found something to do that ties into what I feel I am best at in the world. And it really brings joy to my life. And I want to give you an opportunity to have that same thing and maybe find some synchronicity for yourself and give you a little bit of direction and obviously some cheer and positivity. And that brings me to my big announcement. Anybody could do a drum roll. I did, whatever that was. Next week, I will be having my first ever podcast guest, Heidi Convery Liscombe, who is a Clifton Strengths coach. And so she is going to talk to us more about what is it? Strengths Finder, y'all. Strengths Finder. That's a tough word. It's a great assessment. It's just difficult to say. Fun fact. After all those pronunciation woes, I discovered that the test is no longer called StrengthsFinder. Perhaps they also found it a tongue twister. It is now called the Clifton Strengths Assessment, which works a little better, I think. It actually was changed to pay respects to Don Clifton, the father of positive psychology. Now, this information is important because I think that you could really benefit from learning about this, and knowing what your strengths are before you listen to my convo with Heidi would be pretty great. So, if you go to the website, it's Gallup, Gallup. That's the company that does it, and look for Clifton Strengths. You will find the assessment and the book. Now, you can get a digital copy of everything or a physical copy. Either way, you get a code to take the test. It is $24.99, which is not super expensive, but is not inexpensive. And so, for one lucky listener, you will get a copy for free 99, which means it will be free because I am going to buy one for someone. So, if you want one for free, which I think you do, what I need you to do is go to my social media, either on Facebook or Instagram, and you will find the post that I did this week where I have my little yellow chair and I have a quote from the episode, and comment the word strength with an exclamation point to show your enthusiasm. And then you could win. We'll find out. And now we're going to hear a little bit more about Heidi. She's going to talk to us about it and how you can use it to invest in yourself, whether you are bouncing back from rejection or you're just looking to deepen your sense of self. So she is what a delightful human being. You're going to love her. We're going to have a lot of fun talking, and you are going to have a lot of fun listening to us talk. So I'm very excited for you to get to hear that. Speaking of fun and things I'm excited for you to get to hear, next up, it is time for my favorite part of the week, bragging on other people. I launched the I Do Mean to Brag segment because, as covered in the Brag It Up episode, it can be hard to brag on yourself, and I am here to do it for you. Bwomp, 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 air horn. Bwomp, 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 bwomp. We'll do different pacing. Bwomp, 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 bwomp. Too slow. Bwomp, 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 bwomp. There you go. That's it. All right. The first brag this week goes out to Kay Elizabeth, and it is a toast brag. So she created her own solo career-related retreat at an Airbnb, just took herself, out for the weekend to explore what she wanted out of her life. And what was the result? Well, she launched her own podcast, Kay Elizabeth Toasts, where she celebrates people who are increasing our quality of life, and has closed out the first season in just 3 months. Snip, snip, snippity snap, snip, snip, snap to you. Hey. Ooh. My take on the toast brag is that it is awesome to make time to invest in yourself, and also very difficult. And it's just such a fun meta moment for me because I am bragging about someone who made a podcast also sort of about bragging. So I just love that. And as someone who, you may know, just launched a podcast, it's hard. Not the part where like I'm talking to myself, that part's easy, but the part where you have to be like a graphic slash marketing slash writing expert. It's a lot to do. So props and applause to you, Kay Elizabeth. The second brag this week goes out to Brittany, and it is a potential brag. I saw this brag in the wild on Facebook, and she is feeling excited and grateful, and humbled to feel excited and grateful about upcoming projects she has. And she shared this amazing quote from Lin-Manuel Miranda, famed, Broadway producer, writer, director, creator, everything. He's everything. So Lynn said, or what Brittany said, Lynn said, because he did, is anytime you write something, you go through so many phases. You go through the I'm a fraud phase. You go through the I'll never finish phase. And every once in a while you think, what if I have actually created what I set out to create and it's received as such? I mean, preach, Lynn. Preach. Beautiful. My first take on Brittany is that tooting her own horn in social media is lovely to see. There's a lot on social media that is like not great. And so for somebody to just be like, I'm excited about a thing that I'm doing, just makes me happy. So thank you for sharing it with us, Brittany. And like y'all, my man Lynn, because we're friends. He is a smart cookie. And I think what he had to say there goes beyond writing, because imposter syndrome is the realest of the real. Feeling like you do not know what you are doing, or that you won't finish what you were trying to start is like really part of the human condition. And so, if this man who has won 5 Grammys, 3 Tonys, and a freaking Pulitzer Prize admits to feeling like a fraud, well, you know what? It is okay if you do or I do, because we are just people trying to people. So, with that, I will say we wish Brittany all the luck on her upcoming endeavors. And you should check out her awesome kids' book series, starting with the book The Boy with the Big, Big Feelings. It is, so adorable, so lovely, so well illustrated. So, it would be a bright spot in my day to have the opportunity to give you, yes, you, a brag. Think about something you are proud of, whether it's a big goal that you're working toward or even something small that you've done, and let me know. You can DM me on Instagram or Facebook. And now, the end is near of the show. It is time for a little recap because life is busy and I want you to have something to take with you today. So what the heck did we do today? Well, the unsolicited advice of this episode was about getting over being dumped. Feel the feels. Remember, there are no rules and there is no timeline, so take care of you. In unrequired reading, I recommended The Wishing Game when you are needing comfort and Strengths Finder 2.0 when you are ready to forge ahead. And next week, we will talk with Heidi and learn more about how knowing your strengths can help you. Last but certainly not least, we gave big braggy props to Kay Elizabeth for retreating toward her goals and Brittany for celebrating upcoming projects. And please follow and review wherever you pod and join the Cheerbrary on Instagram or Facebook by following me at the @Cheerbrarian handle. Now go on, get out of here. Text a friend. Drink more water. Okay, bye.